To calibrate a sensor input, start by going to the Hardware tab and selecting a device that has calibratable inputs, like a batch tank module or an analog input. Select the sensor that you want to calibrate. In this case, we'll start with pH. In this page, we can specify the name of the sensor, the type, the unit type, and then the calibration type. There are two types of calibrations, a min-max range and a manual calibration. For pH and TDS probes, you'll use a manual calibration. This allows you to take the reading of the sensor in real time and point that towards two calibration solutions. In this case, a 4 pH solution, which is 0.1, and a 7 pH solution, which is 0.2. You'll place the sensor in your 4 pH solution and then let the sensor reading equalize. Once the sensor reading has equalized and is not changing, you can tap the lock icon for calibration 0.1 to lock in this reading. Next, you'll place your pH probe in the second buffer solution of 7 pH, wait for the readings to change, and similarly lock in that point once it's finished equalizing. Now that the reading is equalized, we just tap the lock icon for calibration 0.2, and then all that is left is to save these changes, as we've already made an equation that's mapping the sensor readings to two specific calibration standards. Next, for the TDS port, we'd also make a similar manual calibration. We'll start by tapping the TDS input, and then changing the calibration type from min-max range to a manual calibration. For these types of sensors, the 0.1 reading is an open air, and the 0.2 reading would be your calibration standard. In this example, it's just a 3EC conductivity standard. You'll start by having the sensor held in open air, and once the reading equalizes, you'll tap the lock icon to lock that reading in. Next, you'll place the TDS probe in your conductivity standard, wait for the readings to change, and once those readings have equalized, tap the lock icon to lock in that sensor reading. With the sensor reading equalized, all that's left is to lock in that calibration point and then save changes, as these readings are used to make a calibration equation that you can see at the bottom of the page. Lastly, for sensors like tank level sensors or par level sensors that have a defined min and max range, we can use the min-max range calibration type to calibrate those. We can start by tapping the sensor itself, using the min-max range calibration type, and then inputting the range of values that sensor is spec'd to have from its datasheet between two different endpoints. In this case, this is a 4 to 20 milliamp sensor, so calibration 0.1 would be 4 milliamps, and calibration 0.2 would be 20 milliamps. With this default equation put in place, this will create a default equation where the sensor will read 0% at 4 milliamps and 100% at 20 milliamps. All that's left is to save changes for this type of calibration, and these changes would get pushed to the controller itself.